West Asia is no stranger to coups, but this one left the region aghast. Jordan's Prince Hamza bin Hussein was put under house arrest. The half-brother was accused of plotting with foreign authorities, a rift that shook the Hashemite kingdom. Hello and welcome to this week's West Asia Post. I am Ghadi Francis and this is our weekly show where we bring you all the latest updates from the world's most volatile region. Well, this week we are tracking the Jordan royal coup and how it left West Asia's bulwark of stability shaking.
It was an uneasy Arabian night in Jordan. As the city of Amman slept, Jordan's security forces swooped in, locking a prince in his own home and detaining several others. The story sounds straight out of a mystical Arabian tale. A brother pitched against another for the crown. Jordan's allies watched aghast as the royal coup tested the resolve of the House of Hashim. At stake was the stability of West Asia. The detained prince is the king's half-brother, Hamza bin Hussein, a popular figure in Jordan and a spitting image of his father, the late King Hussein. Hussein bin Talal ruled Jordan from 1952 to 1999. Touted as the father of modern-day Jordan, he married 4 times and had 11 children. The current king, Abdullah II, is from his second wife, Prince Munawar. Hamza is from his 4th wife, Queen Noor al-Hussein. Hamza was the king's favorite, but he was too young to take over the throne. So when Hussein died a premature death in 1999, Abdullah II became king, and Hamza was named the crown prince. This was the late king's dying wish. But it all changed in 2004. King Abdullah stripped his brother of his title. He wanted his son to succeed him. Thus emerged a rift in the Hashemite kingdom. Both King Abdullah and Hamza belong to the Hashemite royal family. They are believed to be direct descendants of Prophet Muhammad, and the family is known for establishing the modern state of Jordan in 1921. They've always put up a united front, which is why the news of a coup came as a shock.
Today, the chief of the general, on his behalf and the behalf of the Director General of General Security and the Director of the Intelligence Service, they warned me about getting out of the house and communicating or meeting with people.
Hamza blamed the ruling system, accusing them of incompetence and corruption. A rare rift within the monarchy was exposed. But this is not new for the former crown prince. He has often criticized the Jordanian government. As a royal, he escaped their wrath. But not this time.
The security agencies have looked into the long-term activities and movements of Prince Hamza bin al-Hussein, Sharif Ibrahim of Abdallah, and other figures that target the stability and suitable timing to start steps to shake the security of a steady Jordan.
Jordan accused Hamza of liaising with foreign parties and hatching a plot to destabilize the kingdom. Very serious. The king is above all. Many suggested a link to the other end of West Asia. One of the arrested was the former head of Jordan's royal court and now an economic advisor to the Saudi crown prince. While speculations were rife about the Saudi link, Riyadh was quick to declare support for King Abdullah. Other West Asian nations followed suit. The West too rallied behind the Jordanian king with echoing statements of support. So what was the straw that broke the camel's neck? Many say it was a sudden visit to COVID victims' families. Prince Hamza visited the relatives of COVID-19 patients, the ones who died after a hospital ran out of oxygen. Hamza made the trip 6 days before Prince Hussein. While it was a trip to console the bereaved, many looked at it as a ploy to upstage the royal. Hamza's activities were a concern to the king. He nurtures close ties with Jordan's tribes who dominate the security forces. and are the bedrock of support for the Hashemite monarchy. He was even seen meeting disgruntled tribal leaders, many of whom formed a loose opposition movement.
I told him that I'm not responsible for the breakdown and the destruction that exist in my country. It has affected us all, affected our institutions, and we've seen them deteriorating and sagging due to corruption.
Jordan says the crisis is now over. The prince has signed a pledge of support, a letter declaring his support for the king, one that puts the interests of Jordan over any other. King Abdullah said that the sedition has been quashed and that Hamza was at home under his protection. Hamza and King Abdullah have publicly buried the hatchet, but the drama exposed fault lines within the royal family, one that has helped shield Jordan from West Asia's turmoil. Jordan is said to be the bulwark of stability in the region, playing a crucial role in its geopolitics. Jordan houses thousands of refugees from neighboring Palestine and Syria. For the Arab world and the West, its neutral nature makes it a natural ally. Jordan is also the custodian of the Al-Aqsa Mosque, one of Islam's holiest sites, a role that defines the Hashemite dynasty. The crisis has been averted for now. Many are calling it the Jordanian version of the crown. While all is well in Amman, the rift has raised a crucial question. Is Jordan a mirage in West Asia? The kingdom is small and relatively impoverished. Jordan has few natural resources. It depends on tourism for its economy. And the pandemic has battered that industry. The weak economy is further reeling from overstretched infrastructure as the country deals with an influx of refugees. Resentment has been growing over the years. People are blaming government mismanagement. While Jordan may have silenced its prince for now, will the monarchy survive another dissent? West Asia Bureau, WION World is One.
Like always, we will continue to bring you all the latest updates from the heart of the conflict. Don't go anywhere, we have a lot more lined up for today. But first, as usual, let's take a look at what else is making headlines across West Asia.
Former Turkish soldiers were handed out life imprisonment terms over their involvement in the 2016 failed coup attempt against President Erdogan's government. A total of 497 defendants had been on trial since 2017 for attempting to seize the military headquarters.
We plan to restart the U.S. economic development, security, and humanitarian assistance to the Palestinian people.
The United States has restored aid to the Palestinians, providing $235 million in U.S. aid. This includes restarting funding for the United Nations agency supporting refugees and restoring other assistance cut off by former President Donald Trump. The Saudi government has said that only Muslims vaccinated against COVID-19 will be allowed to perform the Umrah pilgrimage. This condition also applies for entry into the Prophet's Mosque in the holy city of Medina. The ministry has said that the policy comes into force at the start of Ramadan, but it was unclear how long it would last. A memorial siren brought traffic, pedestrians and cafe-goers to a halt in Israel as it honored the 6 million Jews killed in the Holocaust. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu attended a wreath-laying ceremony at the Holocaust Memorial Museum in Jerusalem.
We started this show today discussing an attempted coup, but it looks like Turkey and Israel are dealing with imaginary ones. Both Recep Tayyip Erdogan and Benjamin Netanyahu are facing growing dissent, but the two leaders remain defiant, calling any attempt for dissent a coup against them. We tell you more.
West Asia is no stranger to coups. Here the struggle of power has been prolonged and bloody. But this summer, West Asia is witnessing a new form of coup. Imaginary ones. The Oxford Dictionary describes coup as a sudden, violent and illegal seizure of power from a government. But in Turkey and Israel, it looks like any form of dissent amounts to a coup.
This is definitely an ill-intended attempt. The duty of retired admirals, 104 of them gathered, is not to publish statements about a political debate that includes an implication of coup.
This is how they try to overthrow a powerful prime minister from the right. This is what an attempt at a coup looks like.
Recep Tayyip Erdogan and Benjamin Netanyahu are crying coup. Both the long-time leaders face mounting dissent. While Erdogan is busy detaining former admirals, Netanyahu seems to be going in and out of court, calling it a witch hunt. Turkey signed the Montreux Convention in 1936. It gives the country control over the Bosphorus and Dardanelles Straits, guaranteeing access to only civilian vessels. Militarization of the Bosphorus is not allowed, and the World War-era treaty ensures just that. But Erdogan remains defiant. He seems to have found a way around this. The Turkish president plans to create a new waterway, a 45-kilometer-long canal, to the west of the natural route. Former military admirals slammed the move. 104 naval officers signed a statement, saying that it threatens and goes against the Montreux Convention. This was the sign of a coup. 10 admiral officers have been arrested, saying that the statement went beyond freedom of expression.
In a country whose past is filled with coups and declarations, a late-night declaration by 104 retired admirals can never be accepted.
Miles away, Israel's Prime Minister too has a similar problem. Legal troubles are mounting for Benjamin Netanyahu. The leader is in court for an anti-corruption trial, one that he has labeled as a coup attempt.
What is happening is an effort to trample democracy over and over again. They are attempting to annul the will of the electorate.
Trial is not even Netanyahu's biggest problem. The Prime Minister needs to form a government soon, or else his opposition may steal that chance. Amid all this, anti-Netanyahu protests are raging across Israel, calling for Israel's longest-serving prime minister to quit. For Erdogan and Netanyahu, dissent equals to a coup attempt, with their public support waning and growing protests against them. The last thing the leaders should be doing is cry wolf. West Asia Bureau, WION The World is One.
Vienna is currently witnessing history. While time is running out to salvage the Iran nuclear deal, the United States of America and Iran are holding indirect talks, one that could shape the future of the JCPOA. Since 1870, the Grand Hotel WION towered over Vienna, known for its opulence and refined luxury. But this week, its historic hallways witnessed history again. Delegates from the United States and Iran occupied separate rooms, and EU representatives kept shuttling between them, all in a bid to salvage the Iran nuclear deal. It's being called indirect talks between Washington and Tehran. The 6 other JCPOA signatories just watched. The aim was simple: a return to the 2015 historic nuclear deal, formerly known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. Any face-to-face discussions were a big no for Tehran. But US and Iran in the same hotel meant one thing: both the countries were ready for dialogue. But the question was, who would blink first? And the State Department statement has given us the answer.
When it comes to sanctions, the point I made before remains. We are prepared to take the steps necessary to return to compliance with the JCPOA, including by lifting sanctions that are inconsistent with the JCPOA.
For months, Iran has asked for sanctions to be lifted. Tehran said it was the only way it would return to the deal. After the indirect talks in Vienna, it looks like the country may have gotten what it wanted. But the US has made one thing clear. These are not unilateral actions.
We are not and will not offer any unilateral gestures or incentives to sweeten any sort of deal or to induce Iran to back to the negotiating table or to a better position at that negotiating table.
The agreement is to form two expert-level groups. Their job is to marry the sanctions US could lift with the nuclear obligations Iran should meet. While the longtime foes don't expect a quick breakthrough, for many, this is an icebreaker.
We are not optimistic nor pessimistic about the outcome of this meeting now, but we are confident that we're on the right track, and if America's will, seriousness and honesty is proven, it could be a good sign for a better future, a future of peace and security for the region and the world.
When Joe Biden entered the White House, what he encountered were the remnants of a failed Iran nuclear deal, a deal he helped clinch 5 years back. By offering to remove the sanctions, the 46th president has done his bit. The ball is now in Iran's court. What it does could determine the future of the world. West Asia Bureau, WION, World is One. Lebanon's Baalbek temple has gone virtual. You can now visit the ancient ruins from anywhere in the world with just a touch of a button. And that's not all. It even takes you back in history. We tell you more.
Nestled in Lebanon's Bekaa Valley are the ancient Roman ruins of Baalbek, home to one of the oldest standing Roman temples and a staple for visitors in Lebanon. But with the pandemic halting global travel, the Baalbek temple has now gone virtual, allowing tourists to visit the historical sites from anywhere around the world.
COVID gave us the push to adopt and try these tools. I think with virtual tourism, same thing happened. Now it's clicked in. I think it's baked in. And even after COVID, virtual tourism will be useful.
The virtual tour is called Baalbek Reborn, a one-of-a-kind life experience for many. It was created in collaboration with the German Archaeological Institute, along the Lebanese Ministry of Antiquities and American company Flyover Zone.
We think it has a lot of advantages because it's more immersive and it's interactive. It makes it more photorealistic and gives the general public a sense of presence. You could say that it's comparable to, a very advanced student of music could hear in his head or her head what the sound of music would be by looking at the score, by looking at the sheet music. But for the general public, nothing beats a concert. Virtual reality is the concert for archaeology. It's not just the blueprints.
But that's not all. The tour even allows you to step back in history. Witness the temples in its true glory from the year 215 AD. A time warp feature allows travel between the past and present, almost as if you were in a time machine. The project used computer-aided design software, combining them with archaeological blueprints, high-resolution panoramic photography from the ground, and drone footage from above the ruins. The tour is available online and is free of charge. Within just hours of its launch, the virtual tour had already surpassed 10,000 downloads.
The biggest the 6 columns preserved in Baalbek are the biggest preserved of Roman times. So it's just a very important and fascinating place. And it's among the best preserved temples you could find there, the Temple of Bacchus. So it's just a place not to be missed.
With the pandemic in its second year, Lebanon's tourism has been hit hard, making room for apps like this, fulfilling the fantasy of wanderlusts around the world. But the app doesn't want to replace tourism. Instead, it hopes to raise awareness and encouraging more tourism to Lebanon. West Asia Bureau, WION, World is One.
When we talk about Yemen, the first thing that comes to our mind is the war. But what if I tell you that the country is home to a unique tourist destination? One that was touted as the Galapagos of the Indian Ocean. Let's take a look.
Lush landscape, distinctive trees, unique animals, and turquoise waters that are home to dolphins. This is Yemen's Socotra archipelago, the country's dream destination amid a nightmarish conflict. Socotra lies in the Indian Ocean, some 200 kilometers off the Yemeni coast, and a record 1,000 kilometers from Yemen's Aden. Made up of 4 islands and 2 rocky islets, it is home to around 50,000 people. Often known as the Galapagos of the Indian Ocean, Socotra is famed for its rich biodiversity. Most of its plants and reptile species are unique to the island. Its vegetation has earned it a listing as a World Heritage Site. With pure pristine white beaches, the archipelago is untouched by the war, one that has devastated the mainland. With the pandemic stalling travel across the globe, West Asian tourists are now showing interest in this archipelago. No tensions or fights have been reported here, which means tourists have nothing to worry about. Flights have also resumed to the islands, with a chartered aircraft once a week from Abu Dhabi. For years, Yemen has been trying to develop the archipelago in a bid to turn it into a hub for ecotourism. But despite the reassuring words, Socotra hit the headlines in June 2020 when Yemen's southern separatists seized it from the government. But things have now cooled down. Two sides have a power-sharing deal, and the island has returned to its peaceful self. Waiting for eco-tourists to explore its biodiversity. West Asia Bureau, WION World is One.
That's all we have for you on this episode of the West Asia Post. I will see you next week with a brand new lineup, bringing you more stories from the world's most volatile region. Until then, stay home and stay safe. I am Ghadi Francis, and you are watching WION World is One.
The BMW 6 Series GT tries to be 3 cars in one. Whether or not it justifies that effort of being 3 cars in one is exactly what we are trying to find out. And we take the latest update of the Skoda Rapid for a drive to see